Hey guys, it is Tristan with Nerdette's NewsStand, and as always, I want to review this episode of The Watchmen. This was episode 6. It was called The Extraordinary Being, which is literally a line from Hollis Mason books describing Hooded Justice from his Under the Hood book. But before I get started, make sure, if you are new to the channel, to subscribe. As always, if you enjoy the video, hit that like button, and if you want to help support the channel, links are in the description. Now, I kind of want to handle this with kid gloves, because before I get into the video, I want to talk about another reviewers, and I have about 5 YouTubers that I watch on a normal basis, and one of them is your boy Zach. I listened to his review this morning, and he said it was absolutely disgusting. Here's the thing. Oh God, I hate to even say anything because I feel like a bitch, but it's a bit hypocritical. Like, you absolutely liked Sean Gordon Murphy's Von Freeze, so let's compare them a little bit. Sean Gordon Murphy used a similar storyline, but with Nazis instead of racism. It's okay when he does it, but like, not when you talk about the Tulsa riots. This show is historically accurate, 100%. Like, historically accurate down to the point that the person we're going to talk about in a few minutes, one of the characters in this episode, his name's Fred. He's literally a not Trump allegory. He's supposed to be Trump's father, and I'll show on screen just exactly who Trump's father was. So like I said, it is historically accurate. These things did happen. This racism was real. You have to kind of step outside of a reviewer's point to enjoy this. Not only that, but Zach called the little girl his sister wife. It's the exact same storyline as Von Freeze. Literally the same thing. Victor finds, the little girl, and that ends up being Nora. So in this one, Will finds June, or, the little kid who ends up being June. It's the same thing, but you liked one and not the other. And I'm not saying you have to like it at all. I don't mean that at all. But I'm just saying, like, the reasons for not liking it was the reasons why you liked it when it came to Von Freeze. Also, last thing, because I don't want to pick, I don't want to sound like a bitch at all. But, it talks about the size of Hooded Justice. Like, the man was at least 6 foot tall. If you think about it, when he puts the mask or the cloth on his face, that's going to add a couple inches. Not only that, but the way he was described as like the Undertaker type size was from Hollis Mason, who absolutely looked up to him. Like, the whole Ralph Mueller thing with him being the strong man that died was fake. So I don't know, I just found it very weird. Yeah, I'm not gonna go on too far. So, but like I said, I don't want to pick too much. I've just found it mildly hypocritical. So let's actually get into the episode. Obviously, the TLDR, I will put the links to my other reviews in the description, is that at the end, Angela took all of the nostalgia, which is not good because it's not her memories. So it opens up with the American hero story, and this is of Hooded Justice. He is sitting with 2 guys from the FBI. They ask about the noose around his neck. One says, I think it's executioner type thing. The other says, sex stuff. Like, that's kind of how HJ was. Anyway, so they want a picture of him as blackmail because they're talking about his relationship with Captain Metropolis, which was real. And the fact that Captain Metropolis was cheating on him with J. Edgar Hoover. Again, there was a lot of times with J. Edgar Hoover that people thought he was gay. He was cross-dressing. There was a lot of things that they talked about that they thought this was real. So again, historically accurate, and comically accurate for that matter. So he's not happy about the relationships. He agrees to take the mask off, and he does. He's very pretty. He's very pretty, and he's a white guy. So they get ready to take the picture, and there's an amazing fight. Like, the way it's choreographed and everything is so good. And then we switch back to now. Lori is visiting Angela, who was locked up. She needs a medical release signed, basically. Lori actually seems relatively concerned. She explains what nostalgia is, how it's made, but when it comes down to it, she wants to know where Will is and how she can get a hold of him. That's the whole thing, right? So Angela actually starts to kind of trip, or whatever you want to call it, with the memories. And I want to be clear that these memories are Will's. They are his memories Angela is reliving. So we're going to learn all about Will in this episode. So we see him as a new cadet in this ceremony for the, a policeman in New York City. They're doing a pinning to get his badge, and he's not pinned by the white guy, but the black police officer comes up and does his pinning of him and warns him of Cyclops. Now, we don't know at this point what it is, but we definitely will by the end. By my calculation, this would probably take place in the late 40s or late 30s or early 40s. So honestly, let's not pretend like racism didn't run rampant in this time. Now, if it was taking place now, I would absolutely agree that it was completely false. But in the, the 40s, racism, the Ku Klux Klan, all of that ran rampant. So we go to this jazz club and we get to meet June. And June was the baby that he picked up in episode 1. And that's kind of what I was talking about in the beginning. But she's adorable. I love her. She's quirky. She's clever. She's loving. She's a good wife. She's worried about him being angry. And the fact that he's angry and now he has a gun and a stick. So we see Will leave and he is, on duty. And we see this new character. His name is Fred. Now, he is supposed to be Trump's father. Like I said in the beginning, Trump's father literally was arrested for stuff relating to the Ku Klux Klan. So he throws like a Molotov cocktail into a Jewish store, and Will, of course, arrests him. He does it right in front of him. But Fred knows he'll be released. He's literally not worried about it. He takes him back to the precinct, and Fred claims that he's lying, that Will is lying. Will's co-worker actually stands up for him in public, and says he'll take him away, and then, they do the little Cyclops sign, and we're going to get into that. So Will leaves the precinct, and a lot of these times we see the memories, so you can see his memories, but you can also see what Will is thinking about. So we see his mother a lot, which is really cool. It just shows how much care he had for his mother, how much and how often she ran in his mind. But he goes to talk to this guy at a newsstand, and we get another Superman reference. I love it. We get to see Action Comics and probably one of the most famous Action Comics, and we see Fred is back on the streets, and he kind of shoulder bumps him, and he's pissed. So he goes back to the precinct and questions his fellow officers, and then he does what he should not do, and he asks what Cyclops is. And this is kind of his downfall here. Of course, he's going to want to know. He's going to want to know what's going on, but it's not something that should be talked about. So it switches to night, and he's off duty. He's walking home. And 3 cops, his fellow co-workers, mind you, and they're white, ask him if he wants to go for a beer, and he says no. He repeatedly says no a later time. So he's almost home. And he's walking down the alley. The same 3 cops show up and say, this a later time's not going to work for me. And they start beating the fuck out of him with a nightstick. And we see him dragged to a tree, a noose around his neck, a black cloth over his head. And he is on the verge of dying. We see him kind of starting to pass out. And that's when they cut him down. They are teaching him a lesson, telling him to stay out of white people's business. Again, think of the time frame this takes out. It was literally, this stuff happened. So he's walking back home after he's beaten up, still the noose around his neck. He is in complete shock, and he hears a woman scream. And this woman and this man are getting robbed. So he decides at that moment whether he needs to take action or go home, because he's severely beat up himself. Well, he decides to take action. He puts holes in his mask, puts it on. Mind you, like I said, he is in shock. His adrenaline is racing. So that helps him. Not only that, but the element of surprise. And he's able to fight and save them. Like, to me, that's a true hero. He thought of those people before he thought of himself. And especially with the condition he was in. So he does go home to June. And he's beat up and angry. They have like a wonderful embrace there. And when he finally wakes up, June talks, a little bit about Bass Reeves, trust in the law, and they ultimately decide to keep with the vigilante justice. She helps him paint his eyes white. She believes that no one will listen to him under the hood if he's a black man, but if he's a white man right now, that will work. Now, mind you, this is a different take on HJ when it comes to the comics, but it changes everything and nothing at the same time. It's all, for what I've seen, very comically accurate. So now we have Hooded Justice. Now, I called this 3 episodes ago. But nobody believed me. So, he is going to start with his vigilantism, right? So he starts with Fred and Cyclops. He finds where this KKK meeting is going down. He goes in, and it's a back alley entrance, so it's like behind a shop. And we see this fight break out. He's able to get to all of these people. He also finds their plans a little bit. He learns that it's not just happening in New York City. What the Cyclops plan is, and we haven't learned that yet, is going to happen nationwide, and he finds a book called Mesmerism. And in Mesmerism is a type of mind control that was actually a real thing back then that they thought worked. So it's, like I said, historically accurate. I keep feeling like I have to keep justifying that, but the fight goes out into to the store, to the main part of the store, and this is the scene that we've seen in American Hero Story when he jumps in, except for we're going to see that he goes out. So this is a little nudge to when Petey says, this show was completely historically inaccurate, and it absolutely was. So we get to see this amazing shot. I absolutely love it. It freezes when HJ jumps out of the window, and it does end up turning to Angela, and that's because she was in real life given an adrenaline shot to come out because she's in a coma at this point. Lori kind of talks to her, the whole blink if you can hear me type thing, and then Cal shows up, her husband, and tries to, read her stuff about her life to bring her out of it. Where you're born, I'm your husband, we have children, it's 2019, the president is Robert Redford, stuff like that. And then the poor guy begs her to come home. Like, it's so sad. I feel bad for him, but she has to kind of make the choice in her mind. Does she want to learn more about Will, or does she want to get out of this coma? So she has to stay if she wants to know more. So she does slip back into a coma, and it goes to dinner with June, and Nelson Gardner shows up. And I love this part. Obviously, that's Captain Metropolis. I love June. Like, Nelson asks if he can talk about business, if, she'll excuse them. And she's like, ooh, business. Sits down and just starts listening. So they do talk business about the Minutemen. And they want HJ. HJ is who inspired them, right? And Nelson was able to figure out strategically through different patrol routes and stuff like that he's connected. He doesn't actually think he's Hooded Justice. He just thinks he's connected. Will is interested. He asks if he knows anything about Cyclops. They really do want HJ. So there's this cute part where their hands touch. And I think it's adorable, but June sees it and she's like, oh, hell no. But June then says no to the whole thing, and Captain Metropolis leaves. June is also able to tell, that this whole thing's a lie. She knows he's Captain Metropolis. So we go back and we see them just having intimate relations. Let's call it that. They're having intimate relations. It's some man-on-man action. And then we see pillow talk, which is including, he says yes to be in the Minutemen, and he has to keep his persona up. He has to remain unknown and white because Metropolis says some people in the Minutemen are not as tolerant as he is. I refuse to believe that. I think it's more of a I want you to myself kind of thing. But we switch to Will in bed with June, and we find out she's pregnant. So again, we're doing a lot of switching, but the way they switch is absolutely fantastic. Whoever directed this, and I don't have it right on hand, did an amazing job. So we switch to him getting ready for his first press conference, introducing him with the Minutemen and that he is a new member. And at the press conference, he goes to talk about the vast, insidious conspiracy of Cyclops, but Captain Metropolis totally interrupts him and says, instead of him, he talks about Moloch, which is obviously a well-known villain when it comes to the Minutemen. And then they show this new, dollar bill promo, which is super racist, but we did see it in a past episode at the 7th Cavalry's home. So we get to see kind of June and her son growing up. And I think the whole reason we see that is because we kind of learned that he was an absentee father, right? He chose Hooded Justice over June, and the little boy's name's Marcus. So there is a Harlem riot, and it's a movie screening. He goes in to talk to a female and finds out the whole thing was set up. And this goes back to that mesmerandum. It's all brainwashing done by the pictures, done by the movie. Cyclops is using movie projectors as mind control, basically. So he goes to the nearest phone booth and tries to call Captain Metropolis. He needs help. He can't do this by himself, right? So Captain Metropolis just doesn't believe him, has no interest, said the Minutemen are not interested in pursuing Cyclops when they wanted him, they were so interested, right? So I guess. But he still wants to see him. He wants him to come over. He wants booty, but he doesn't want to help, I guess. So Fred walks by. Again, same character as before. And he doesn't remember him, weirdly enough. He's like, I know what you need. You need steaks. Now, this meat packing facility is obviously a front for all of these, this mind control. So Will has just had enough. He's had way too much. He shoots him point blank between the eyes. And then he goes to investigate the meatpacking place, which is owned by Fred. And it's another cover. So we see all the Klansmen kind of moving around, moving the movie projector. He goes through and he kills them all. And just has no sympathy. No trial, nothing. He is judge, jury, and executioner. Then he sees this room. It's a recording room. He uses, he sees his co-worker from the beginning of the story recording his mind control speech. Hate and hurt black people. Stuff like that. Don't hurt white people. Something similar to those lines. I don't have it exactly. So he strangles him with a phone cord because he tries to shoot him and he's out of bullets. He gathers all the bodies. He sets the whole warehouse on fire. So that he did a good job in a very not good job kind of way. But he does go home and he sees his son putting on the white face that he's put on for years. He doesn't like it. He doesn't like seeing that reflection. He doesn't want that for his son. June has had enough at this point. She leaves. She says she's going to leave to Tulsa with her son Marcus, or with their son rather. Tells him to leave them alone. Forget them. She's done. Do not even remember us. But he did take one of the projectors from the warehouse, so that kind of is important. And we switch, and we're going to get a lot of answers now to Judd's hanging. And he uses the projector that he took from the warehouse to mind control Judd. When he said in that episode, I'm the one that strung your police chief up, he wasn't lying. He uses it. Judd does try to explain the truth, because as far as I know right now, Judd was just a figurehead. But he does, he asks about the clan robe. He says, that's my grandfather's. It's a legacy. It's not something I'm proud of, whatever. He does hang himself, and we see kind of this onslaught of memories, including June saying goodbye to Will. And then we see June now as an older lady, and we find out that, obviously that's Angela's grandmother. And then Angela wakes up, and she's at Lady True's place. And we don't know how she got there, but she's out of the coma. And Lady True just says, welcome back, and it's over. I absolutely loved this very light retcon of HJ. I like him as a character, and I think it was all so fitting, from the news, from the thing put around his head, the cloth. Everything fit really well. Everything was historically accurate. It was well done. I understand that we're taking it to a new degree of past racism, but we can't pretend like those things didn't exist. So I think it was really well done. I think it was well handled. And I think going forward in this series, we're going to see a lot of good come out of it. I just hope that we don't see an end with, like, you know, black versus white. I don't want to see that at all. But I do think this was handled well. I do love the new HJ. He was always one of my favorite Minutemen. So I'm glad to see this. So I am going to look through the PDpedia files and see if there's anything worth talking about. But I do know in the one was the will for Captain Metropolis, and he felt really bad about everything and gave Will all his money and da-da-da-da. So I gotta actually look through them a little bit better. So let me know what you guys thought of this episode. And again, I apologize for being a bitch in the beginning. It just, hypocrisy bugs me a bit. Let me know what you guys think. I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye. Hey, I want to give a huge shout out to my Subscribe Star and Patreons. You guys literally make this channel possible. Thank you so much, Sanjuro, Way Else One, BG Torrance, Black Knight Fool, Brucey, Grand Smear, Jeffrey Allen Carnes, Jeremy Burtz, Mike Buckner, Robert, and Timothy French. You guys are freaking amazing. Thank you so much, and make sure you like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.